Let's talk about the top prospects in the 2025 NFL Draft right now on FFT Express. Welcome, everybody. Adam Aizer and Heath Cummings here. And Heath, by the way, people, if you're not listening to FFT Dynasty, you're doing yourself a disservice. You got to listen to FFT Dynasty. It's a great way to learn about these prospects, and not just the draft guys, but talk about the futures for the current NFL players. Anywho, you've had a lot of guests on. You've done a lot of research. The NFL Combine is now behind us. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you've had about this draft class?
So on Tuesday, we did a superflex tight end premium 2-round mock on FFT Dynasty. And one of my biggest takeaways was that in that format, I really like the early second round, which tells me that in non-tight end premium, I think we got a good first round. I feel like we always get to the point in the rookie drafts when we're doing them, like if we reach the point to where you'd happily trade this pick for a 2026 first. And sometimes that happens around pick 8 or 9 for me. I'm not sure that's going to happen in the first round this year. I really, it's a stacked class at the running back position. It's a very good class at the tight end position, at least at the top. The other two positions are weak, but still plenty of guys to draft in the first round.
So give me your top 12 in Superflex overall.
So number 1 with a bullet, Ashton Jeanty, even in Superflex. We're taking the running back. He's in a tier of his own. I would give up a lot to trade up from 103 even to get him. The next 3, I would say Cam Ward, Trevion Henderson, and Amarian Hampton would be my next 3. So you've got, again, 3 running backs in the first 4 picks. That may change if we get a wide receiver drafted earlier than I'm kind of feeling like they would. And then the next 4, I would put in the same tier: Tetairoa McMillan, Luther Burden, Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, and Shedeur Sanders. We'll see where he gets drafted, but feels pretty safe, like he's going to be a top 8 pick. And then it finishes off with some more running backs, really. Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Devin Neal, and then Matthew Golden really ensured that he would be in the round 1 conversation with his 40 time. He was already a guy that was in consideration for a top 5 tight end. There is a wild card, and I wrote about this when I did my pre-combine rankings. I wrote about it yesterday when we did our mock draft, and that wild card is Travis Hunter. If Travis Hunter is a full-time corner that's going to play 25% of the snaps at wide receiver, then he's probably not worth a pick in the first 2 rounds of rookie drafts. If Travis Hunter is a full-time wide receiver, then he's probably a top 6 pick.
I just want to go over it one more time. I missed one name. So we have Ashton Jeanty, running back; Cam Ward, quarterback; Trevion Henderson, Amarian Hampton, a couple of running backs there; Tetairoa McMillan, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, 3 wide receivers at 5, 6, 7. Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback, at 8. Running back Quinshon Judkins at 9. I think I missed number 10.
Caleb Johnson.
Okay, running back. Didn't have a great combine, I guess, but Caleb Johnson at 10, Devin Neal at 11, and I'm sorry, number 12.
Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas. And again, I gave those in tiers because I don't feel very strongly about which of those last 4 that I would put in front: Judkins, Johnson, Neal, or Golden. The NFL draft will help us with that. I don't feel very strongly about McMillan versus Burden versus Egbuka versus Sanders at this point. The NFL draft will help us with that. I thought I was going to have Henderson in a separate tier from Hampton, but Hampton really had a good combine too.
I think that you're missing Tyler Warren. I think he needs to be in your top 12, Penn State tight end.
In a tight end premium draft, he certainly does. He is an older prospect, and I'm a little bit concerned that he wasn't ever great in college until he was older than everybody he was playing against.
Okay, that's kind of a Dalton Kincaid thing too, right? He was a pretty old prospect.
Right.
Okay,
but no, Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin are right there. I wouldn't argue with anybody putting them in the top 12. Jackson Dart might get enough steam to where he becomes a pick in the first round, and then he moves into the top 12. There's still a lot to be learned.
I'll give one more wild card in one moment, and we'll be right back on FFT Express. Obviously, all the names you just heard, especially those running backs later in the first round, we don't know where they're going to go in there. There's a lot of interchangeability, right? And obviously landing spot matters as well. Colston Loveland is a tight end that didn't get mentioned, but a lot of people would really like him.
Yep.
But I'm going to say Jalen Milroe is kind of like an Anthony Richardson boomer bust type of prospect, but with so much rushing potential, much more rushing potential than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, whatever. So I think he is a very exciting prospect and a guy that I guess I could see gaining some steam between now and the NFL draft. Oh boy, like I could see this being the worst prediction ever, but Milrose sneaking into the back of the first round wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, and I think that that's the key distinction, because if he goes in round 2, or he might be in round 3 guy, then it's going to be really hard to get excited. You mentioned Richardson. I wonder if people have gotten burned by that type of prospect enough recently that they're scared of it. Some people feel that way about Tetairoa McMillan because he looks like all the other busts at wide receiver, the big guy. But the difference was Richardson went 4th overall. Like Justin Fields, we had questions about him. He went 11th overall. There's a lot more security to go along with the upside if you can sneak into the first round.
Yeah, I think about Malik Willis. So at one point, people were talking about Malik Willis being a first-round pick. He ended up going 86th overall to Tennessee in 2022. Yep. Okay. So Cam Ward, boy, I'm reading really a lot of conflicting things on him. Some people just don't really think he's that great of a prospect. Some people think he's a bona fide top 5 overall kind of player. How are you treating him? You had him second on your...
I had him second. I am expecting he'll be the first pick in the draft, and that's why he's second. I have a lot of questions about him as a prospect. I think there's at least 4 quarterbacks from last year's draft that I would take before anybody in this year's draft, maybe 5. Wow. So I'm not that excited, but I think there's enough upside that if he goes number 1 overall, then he pretty much has to be a top 3 pick in rookie drafts.
It's so funny. Absolutely not even close to Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, Cam Ward. But it's so funny to compare him to Drake May because they played in the same conference. And, May is interesting because his sophomore season was phenomenal, but his junior season wasn't. And Cam Ward was a Heisman Trophy finalist. I really don't really understand the knocks. May's bigger, which is a big deal. But
right.
I don't know. Cam Ward was better than Drake May is basically what I'm trying to say. I guess you could argue May was pretty similar to him as a sophomore, but Ward took the Jaden Daniels route. Took him a long time in college to finally be amazing. Mm-hmm. Went to 3 different schools. I'm pretty high on him, and I really don't think it's bias. I think he's really good. And would you like to see him on Tennessee, Cleveland, or the Giants?
Oh, the Giants.
Because of neighbors?
Because of neighbors, yeah.
How big of a gap is there between Jeanty and every other running back?
I expect Jeanty to be the number 3 running back in my dynasty rankings as soon as he's drafted.
Do you think he'll be a first-round pick in redraft?
I think that is landing spot dependent, but in the right spot, yes. Like if the Bears take him, I think he probably is.
Yeah, Cowboys would be amazing. Raiders?
I think he probably still is.
Okay. Yeah, but if he goes to the Raiders, it'll be a fun debate. Is Brock Bowers or Ashton Jeanty?
Yeah, it'll probably be Jeanty.
Yeah, it'd be Jeanty for me. Just right now, top of the dome. Well, thank you, Heath, and much more NFL draft talk on FFT Dynasty, and of course on Fantasy Football Today as we get closer. We got to get through free agency first, and then we'll probably turn our attention to the draft a little bit after that. For Heath Cummings, I'm Adam Aizer. This is FFT Express. We'll talk to you tomorrow.